When you gentlemen are ready. Okay, we'll start out, call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. So on the agenda today, the only thing is to go over the presentation that will be presented Monday night to the county commissioners. And I'm gonna do that so that if there's any questions, we can make note of it and make a change. Yes. Thank you, Chief. Need to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Laura emailed those out to everybody.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of approving the motions as presented? Aye. Any opposed? Good. Thank you, Chief. So we're going to, I need to sign that. We're going to,
Joey needs to as well.
we're going to go through this presentation. And certainly any questions or additions or deletions, speak now. Okay? This is the composition of the working group. It's made up of county subject matter experts. That's us, everybody in this room. Union EMS, Union VFDs, county commissioners, county communication center, emergency service director, CHS executives, sheriff's department, and community representation. So that's the group. That's what we're made of. These are the people that are on it and their organizations. And I just didn't know what else to call you other than a member. It's not a not a slide there.
Other is fine.
Okay, good. A little background. Based on community input and the Board of County Commission rejection of the consultant's recommendation for EMS, this committee was chartered to provide a solution based on community requirements, service to all residences, utilizing county and EMS subject matter experts, utilizing the data from historical EMS service and financial impact to the county. That's what we were charged with. The format, we started on October 9th with 18 representatives. With limited turnaround time, we divided into 3 subcommittees: current standards, technology, and metrics. In the past, we've called that current standards data. I think current standards may be more appropriate of a name. Does anybody have a problem with that? Changing that to standards? Okay, Joe, I thought you was raising your hand. Okay, the current standards subcommittee's objective was to analyze historical data on past EMS service, review communication center data for EMS calls, and match above data for accuracy. Is that fair?
It's fair, only thing I think I would add. Or
Write it down, write it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can say it, but write it down because I won't remember.
Sure. It's just the clarity between the accuracy between CCOM versus state data.
Toolkit?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure that says match above data for accuracy between county and toolkit data.
The state toolkit data.
Okay. Technology subcommittee's objectives. Technology plays a major part in the implementation of any emergency service. Recommend necessary hardware/software needed to implement the plan. Analyze the cost of hardware needed. Look at technology needs for all county emergency services. Larry, is that exactly what y'all did? Good. Metrics subcommittee. Develop deployment model using the data from research and feedback from the data committee. I need to change that. Chief, would you make a note of that too?
Which one, sorry?
Right here where it says data committee, should say standards committee. Current standards committee and the technology committee. Identify service goals and reporting. Identify service delivery standards and response time requirements. Chief Bobby, is that
Yes, sir.
pretty accurate? Okay, good. EMS Current Standards Committee, this was their goal, to properly represent the current state of EMS as it relates to response time, budget, and staffing. Chief? Is that good?
Yes.
These are the definitions that the EMS Current Standards Committee used. Union County is considered to be an urban area, and that's based on the state, right? And the way the state classifies EMS services around the county, around the state by county, Union County falls into urban, and that's based on population only, right? Okay. All time data is 90 percentile unless otherwise stated. Time definition: shoot time, dispatched en route, response time, en route to on scene, scene time, call arrival to depart for the ED, transport time, depart for ED to arrival at the ED, in service, arrival at the ED to ready for calls. Total time is call dispatch to in service. Is that a fair representation for you guys from that committee? This is the current deployment model based on staffing. Tim, help me out here, make sure I'm saying this right. But the way it works is if we have 11 transport trucks across the top, that's where they'll be in those 11 spots. As we go down a truck, Sandy Ridge will be the first truck to drop offline. Bear in mind, this is only transport trucks, so we're not talking about the QRVs.
Correct.
The second truck will be Unionville. The third truck will be Stallings, the second truck. And then the third truck will be Med Base, third truck. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions about this slide?
That's what we call our current deployment method.
Current deployment.
Yeah, this is how we do it. Move up, deploy.
Right.
Call, drop, by.
In case the question was asked, what does STEM mean?
In my terms, it's a heart attack.
Say that again, Billy.
I know what it means, I'm just asking, I want to make sure he understands. The question may be posed, what is a STEMI?
It's a heart attack. I'm not going to try to explain medical terminology. If I do that, there'll be all kind of confusion.
Chief, would you think it would help to add a subtitle to that slide that quite simply says current deployment?
Yes, and I can do that. I think that'd be prudent. Now, if you notice the way it's set up is at 5, they hold code 1s in all transfers and notify the supervisor of any pending of those calls. So that's where the interfacility transfers would stop, is at 5 in the current system. And then you can see as they go down 4, 3, 2, and 1, what happens over here. There's a notification to the admin staff that they're at system status level 4. 3, they hold code 1s, use QRVs to triage, enhance codes, and make additional transports. They alert staff that they're at system status 2, and they notify mutual aid. So when they get to 2 ambulances, they're notifying mutual aid to move up to the county lines or if they have available units. Any questions on this slide? Everybody good with it? Good. This is the current staffing. These are the ambulances. This is the hours of the day they're scheduled to work. This will be a prime time truck. This will be a prime time truck. Both, if you notice, are scheduled for 12-hour shifts. And then this is the number of personnel that's assigned. This is how many hours annually they're scheduled to work. This is how many hours that they're not worked. So this would be the percentage of time that they're offline.
I think you need to make that, go back just a second. Just, if you take that chart and you blow it up a little bit, I think it'll be easier to see, because you gotta keep in mind, in the big room, it's gonna be harder to see. So if you'll make that chart like 8.33 wide, it should
Do
be.
you even know how wide it needs to be?
Well, he's got that presentation that's over there in our book. I know how wide those tables are. If you make it that wide, it'll be easy to see.
This guy's good. This guy's good.
Fortunately, we have the TVs
So
on the
write that
side.
down, chief. 8.33.
We have the TVs on the side that'll help.
Right, you do. It's just gonna be, it's a small table, and the more data you put on a table, the harder it is to see. Like, the people at home right now can't see that at all.
Okay.
So you'll just need to
We'll make it bigger.
make it a little bigger, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. This is the personnel distribution. The same thing, this is how many we got, 67 total paramedics on a 12-hour shift. We still have 24 paramedics on a 24-hour shift. When is that? January 15?
Around 18, we'll.
The goal is January 15 to have everybody on a 12-hour shift,
Correct.
right? Okay. Now, that may be a question that's asked. They have 4 administrative personnel, they have 21 part-time employees, or 116 total employees currently. And they're adding to that every day because they're hiring. And is that good? Vehicle maintenance budget was $169,000 for 2014, 2015.
We just didn't have any historical data beyond that. That was just what was.
That's all we had. That's all we had to go with. This is the fleet. According to, you guys are the ones that fill this out, right? This is another one of those that's gonna be hard to read. There's just a lot of data in this small table.
I would think, I mean, if you wanted to, I don't know, but I wouldn't think you needed the bin numbers in there. If we could take that out.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I wouldn't think we needed the bin numbers in there. Other than that, you can, no tag or bin numbers, other than that, we'll be fine.
You don't want the tag numbers in there?
Well, the tag numbers aren't in there. Just the bin numbers.
Okay, but this is a chart that's done by them so that, so it shows what they feel like their needs are. They got 2 Tahoes that have to be replaced.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can get you that tag number.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Chief, my only question is, since that's really not part of the deployment model with the performance standards, do we need to go in that level of detail for this presentation? I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not sure how in the overall, we're going to put forth some recommendations in an deployment plan. I'm not sure if that, you need that level of detail.
All we're trying to do is just show that these are, and I'll get to that, is through the community meetings. These were the questions that were asked in the community meetings, and that's what we're addressing in our presentation, is every point that was brought forward from the community meetings, and that's why that's in there. That was one of the things that was fleet, and I don't know how it came out of community meeting, but fleet size. So the fleet size was one of the things, one of the big points that were met in the previous study. That was one of the big points. It's a cost factor. All of those things, I guess, is how it came out of the community meeting. So that's why it's in there. That's the only reason. This is the current deployment map. Each one of these blue squares right here are the bases where the trucks are stationed now. This is a QRV and this is a QRV. Is that right? That's right, isn't it? And currently we have 2 trucks stationed here for 12 hours a day and then 1 the other 12. We have 3 for 12 and 2 for 24 there. So both of these locations here have a prime time truck for 12 hours.
Correct.
Okay? Anything on that one? Daytime coverage map. This is the current travel distances, and I think this may be the wrong map, but I'm not sure. Just simply because this is showing travel distances from, looks like all the fire stations.
Larry, that was the one that we were using to show travel time from their bases.
Yes, and looking at it, you
This-
moved Mineral Springs, which looks like that one's on that map, so we'll get it.
Yeah, I got to get the current map for this, because I think this is showing them, because it's showing travel distances from here. There's not an EMS truck there. It's showing travel distance from here. That's Sandy Ridge,
Right about that.
and
The one right in the middle on 75 is
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chief, I think we need to point out the squiggly line is.
Okay, I can do that. Does everybody know what these squiggly lines are over here?
I do.
I know you do. If you don't, we got a problem. That's actually the route that they take to the hospital. This is Presbyterian Matthews, and this is Pineville. So that would be the routes that they take to the hospital so that CCOM can track them on AVL, I'm assuming, of those corridors. So they kind of know where they are when they're returning to the county. That's what that is.
I think you need to blow that up as big as you can get it.
8.33.
Well, you can do it bigger here. I think you don't need the header. I think you can
Yeah.
make that the whole slide, because it's
Well,
kind of hard to see.
We get into all the coverages, so we're gonna show that where you can see it. This is the CCOM versus the toolkit data. CCOM query included all emergency calls, which include patient contact time or a hospital time. Duplicate calls were removed from CCOM data. The explanation on duplicate calls is more than one unit responded to that call. So they're not tracking the second, third, or fourth unit. Toolkit looks at all emergency calls regardless of patient contact or transport. Overall response time decreased approximately 50%, attributed to 12-hour shift migration. I probably should list AVL on there too as a reduction. So I think that was something else that y'all kind of worked through in there too, is that AVL played a part in that. Arrived at transport data in 2012 and 2013. Toolkit time is presented for completeness, but is considered an invalid data point. And I'm assuming that the reason why that is because their data did not include turnout time or something was haywire in there. We
It
don't
was
know
just a
why.
bad piece of data. I mean, when you look at it, you can see.
Time was
the
way
time was way
off.
off.
Yeah.
It was more than 50% off.
Yeah.
So there had to be something wrong, but we didn't have the ability to understand
Fine.
what was wrong.
Okay, good. EMS standards are not widely available, and NFPA 1710 standards used where they were applicable.
Can you explain the NFPA 1710 standards?
Yes, NFPA 1710 is the deployment for career fire departments. And as part of that, they have an EMS module in there that explains turnout times, response times, and performance measures or performance goals of what will happen when you arrive on the scene within certain amounts of time. And that's what NFPA 1710 is. National Fire Protection Association 1710. That's the deployment of career fire departments, which includes an EMS module. This is the CCOM data. This is code 3 calls only for years 2011 and 12, 12 and 13, 13 and 14. And then you can see we have from July to September of 14 over here on the sides. We're averaging 52 runs a day. CCOM showing them. You can see the dispatched and route times, what the differences are. Right now, July to September, it's 1:34, 89% of the time at 90 seconds.
Chief, could we, as a group, I thought we were gonna go back through and standardize code 3 and priority 1 to simply just calling it an emergency. Is that something maybe?
I think you're gonna get a question asked, what are code 3s? I just put emergency call.
I agree.
Put parentheses out to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, code 3, parentheses, emergency calls.
Okay. And that's what the data shows. And each one of these are what's being measured in each one of those categories. So you got call received to dispatch, dispatched en route to arrive, dispatch to arrive, arrived to patient contact, arrived to transport, transport to the hospital arrival, hospital arrived to clear, and the others are dispatched to hospital, dispatched to clear, call received to clear. So this number on the bottom is the total time per call, from the time the call is received to the time the ambulance is back in service.
But when we talk about response time, one thing you need to point out is that It does include dispatch to en route and en route to right.
Say that again.
When we talk about response time, we mentioned response time later on. So we need to point out the dispatch to en route plus en route to arrive
Right.
is a comparable response time, which
Right.
would be 1450 something.
1450. And that's from July to September this year.
Chief, and one of the questions, and again, I apologize, Chief, he offered me the opportunity to meet with him yesterday to ask him questions about some of the numbers, but are we averaging 52 emergency runs a day, or is that an average of 52 runs per day total with regard?
Total.
Total, okay.
Those are total runs, not just emergency calls. Those are total runs. Any other questions about this slide? The next one gets even
I'm
harder.
not sure if, because the slide's talking about code 3 calls, everywhere else in the slide is code 3, except for that average of 52 runs.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you either should take it out or change it to what are the average of code 3 runs during that time period. You see, because the table represents everything in code 3 except for that one
Except that
metric.
one line, yep.
So I think you either need to define it a little better in the table,
Mhm.
or change it to match what the rest of the table is.
Okay.
It's averaging out to about 15 emergency calls per
Yeah.
day. Just
Per
doing the math
24-hour
real quick.
shift.
Correct.
But you're gonna need that up there somewhere to show the availability.
The system
System
status.
status. Well, I put
We
both,
can-
you got room there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can adjust.
yeah, we'll change that up. I got the rest of the day.
But it's still averaging out
Oh, yeah.
15 emergency calls per day and
Yeah.
then 52 runs per day.
On the
In-
system.
in totality, yes.
This is the toolkit data, and it's a little different. It's a little different because on here you got Union County specific, then you got the state, and then you got the urban group in the state. And this compares Union County to other urban groups in the state. And so if you look, right here's the total time that they're showing is 1 hour and 25 minutes versus the 1 hour and 29. We'll get into the comparison here in just a minute that the data group looked at. That's basically the same thing, just from a different, one is CCOM numbers, one is a state toolkit number.
And the state toolkit number also includes, I think it was twice.
Yeah, that's on the next.
Yeah.
And if you look, these are the comparison of the CCOM numbers versus the state toolkit numbers. One of the things that's sticking out right off the bat is the toolkit's looking at 11,634 runs. CCOM looked at 5,657 runs. Can you explain that, Chief? How we arrived at that?
Yeah, but it's, well, and Gary can definitely help me where I
Yes.
go astray. Obviously, the CCOM numbers are going back to the initial slide where we were talking about the duplicates being removed, so on and so forth. The toolkit data is going to include everything from a priority one perspective, or emergency call perspective. So whether you had patient contact or whether you were dispatched and canceled, that's factoring into that 11,000.
Okay, good. And you can see what, after they looked at both of these, given the numbers and the margin for error in the numbers, and we'll talk about how those errors can occur later. But they said that, they were validated, that we were able to use both sets of numbers are good, they match. Any questions about that slide?
And there's where the arrival to transport for 2012-2013, you can see that it's 50% less from the toolkit data. And that's why I was saying that's got to be a bad data point
Yes.
from the toolkit perspective.
Yeah.
That we included it for completeness, didn't factor it into the difference.
Right.
That was an outlier.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we don't have the ability to go look at the data from the state to
Yeah,
figure out
right.
what was missing, so.
And the state gets their data from the PCRs or the reports that are entered by EMS,
Correct.
okay? And the CAD data or the CCOM data comes off the backside of the CAD as it's captured. Okay?
And the data that we enter on the PCRs comes from
Comes from
the CAD.
CCOM.
Yes.
It's sent to you guys in a paper form.
They can either, we receive it in either paper or they can pull it up after their calls completed and they can pull it up on the CAD screen.
Using
Manually.
And manually.
Using the, okay. Good.
So there's some area there for area.
Yeah.
But I thought we talked about you had some enhancements that might,
We're
Yes.
gonna get on that next. It's coming, I promise, it's coming. I got 60 slides to talk about. I can go to the last slide right off the bat.
It's like a spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, so it's in there. Okay, the technology subcommittee was next. And their goal, the EMS technology subcommittee was formed to review the needs of union emergency medical service in regards to enhancing performance through the use of software, hardware, and connectivity. The subcommittee reviewed the current methods and technology in place at EMS and emergency communications. It was determined that the process will be a partnership regarding changes to improve the overall processes in response to medical call incidents in Union County. The subcommittee set out to determine the issues that affect individual timestamps associated with calls for service. And this is where we're talking about the toolkit data versus the CCOM data. In order to best report on progress regarding performance measures, review of monitoring methods were also discussed. The group also set out to identify current software programs available for EMS use, as well as other software packages recommended by others for EMS use. Okay? The first recommendation to come out of technology subcommittee is to enhance the AVL, automatic vehicle locators, on our EMS trucks. The committee's recommendation is to use two separate computer devices, one strictly for patient care, so that we don't have any HIPAA violations, I guess would be the easiest way to explain that. That's correct. And one for mobile computer terminal. The MCT will be hardwired to the modem in the ambulance via network cable. The patient care computer and monitor can use the wireless capability of the modem. All devices would have individual IP addresses. An IP address for the MCT will be sent via a cell carrier on a dedicated site-to-site VPN to message switch located in CCOM. So we're going to have a direct link to CCOM instead of having to go through the hospital networks, firewalls, and all of those systems that they have in place to protect patient information and their records. So the benefit to this, connectivity to the CAD is considered the most important to the system. The AVL will provide uninterrupted connections to assure the closest vehicle recommendations and eliminate the need to transfer through the hospital's servers and security firewalls. It will provide more accurate times as the crews will be better able to change their status directly from the mobile data terminal.
you know, Johnny, that's significant from a software, hardware standpoint. It's eliminating 5 failure points. Every time a hospital updates a program, a firewall goes through, it's got to be matched to all the other software. So this is a significant improvement that, you know, the public wouldn't necessarily see, but it's going to prevent a lot of work, a lot of coordination on our part.
And this system is currently in use by the sheriff's office
Yeah.
and has a high connection rate. So it's way more reliable than what we're currently using. Monitoring software. In order to monitor shift activities, daily logs, and required performance measures, EMS needs a monitoring program that supervisors can access. Software from OptaLive and First Watch were discussed, as well as OpCenter and CSS Web. OpCenter and CSS Web are modules of the current CAD system and provide direct reports from the live CAD setting A demonstration was done on the capabilities of the two and found to be acceptable for EMS use in monitoring activities. Both programs are currently licensed by the CCOM and have no financial impact for EMS use. That's something we can start today. We already have that. I guess that's flipping a switch over there for lack of my better computer knowledge.
A little bit more than that.
Okay, 2 switches. Positioning software. The group explored the value of software such as Marvelous and Optimal Live in regards to positioning management software. After learning of the Future Metrics Subcommittee plan to use pre-deployment post method of operation with assigned move-up locations, the posting software discussions were ended. So we did look at that. We decided that we didn't want to go down that road right now. Is that a fair statement? Mr.
Yeah,
President?
it's not as, the program's not as necessary with.
With the deployment model that's been recommended.
And ABO.
And ABO.
And that's because you're using fixed postings on the move up versus data analysis to assign the units on an active data assignment.
There we go.
Okay. I'm asking just for my information.
Yes.
Clarification. I'm just trying to understand what the Marvelous did versus what your system does.
EMS Administrative Office connectivity. And basically what this is that the subcommittee is recommending that we put an on-site router with a separate internet connection for the same reasons that they're doing it in the ambulances, so that the supervisor has direct connect to the CAD so that it can use the OptiLive and the CSS web. And it'll be a little more reliable. Sir?
Op Center.
Op Center, sorry. Op Center. What did I say?
Optimal.
Op Center, my bad. All these names. CAD records access. What this will do is this will eliminate the need for the paramedic to type in the numbers or go to CAD and find the numbers on the radio log and then manually enter them. This is an interface between our CAD and their ePCR program that will automatically dump the times and the instant specifics into that report for them. And this is currently being used by the fire service right now in Union County. All fire service pretty much is using it, all fire departments.
Chief, just to make sure people understand, this is a one-way dump. This is not going to in any way endanger HIPAA violations or anything like that. It's a one-way dump
Okay,
of information.
good.
Chief, just as an organizational suggestion, based on what we're seeing here, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff with regard to these recommendations. Would it behoove us to go through on each of our slides and number those recommendations? Or are you
We can.
Are you more comfortable? That way, if they have a question about a specific one, then they can refer it to by recommendation number 5 or recommendation number 6.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, we can. See, if you showed up yesterday.
Point taken.
Yeah, we can do that, and just for the ease of operation, and I kind of hope that this thing on Monday night will be interactive. If they have a question on the slide, I'd like them to ask the question then, and not wait till we get to the end, so that we can get it addressed right then. Radio processing of initial dispatch. After review of the technique of initial dispatch, it has been decided that the process can be streamlined by eliminating the VHF patch and the toning process. Each EMS crew currently carries an 800 megahertz radio, and we have the capability in our current CAD system and radio system to alert those individual radios and truck radios. And we're going to switch over to that, so that'll cut down on the amount of dispatch time by 5 to 7 seconds, which is a pretty big thing. And this method is currently in use by the Monroe Fire Department. Works very well. So that's just a little thing that we can change. There's no financial impact to that whatsoever. Automated voice dispatch. This is software is connected to a radio device that immediately dispatches the call in a uniform manner. So we would set it up to dispatch however we want it dispatched, and it would do it every time that way. It has the capability of dual dispatch directly to pre-deployment post through a network connection. We can audibly announce the run. It can cut on the lights, open doors. It has a lot of capabilities, lots of capabilities. The system that provides the initial radio dispatch is an eligible 911 expense, with the licensing controller and peripheral devices would not be covered through 911 funding. The subcommittee recommends that this item be pursued further as a 911 project at this time. And that's through the state 911 board. We're able to use money out of the 911 fund to purchase the initial setup piece, radio interface. Okay, so that's at no cost. Here are the equipment recommendations and cost associated with each of those recommendations. And you can see there's the second laptop, dual modems, multi-band GPS antennas, and the interface for the EPCR connection direct from EMS base to CCOM routers. All of the technology equipment that's being recommended is a cost of $160,000. Is that correct? These were the community concerns that came out of the community meetings that Commissioner Helms and Commissioner Thomas held in 3 different locations throughout the county. These were the main concerns that came out of that. Number 1 was dynamic deployment to rural areas, number of units placed on the 74 corridor, rural communities not comfortable with the level of service, QRVs versus transport trucks, calculation of response time, staffing, and fleet size. Those were the things that came out of it. This is the working group's recommendations and how we addressed each one of those things. Performance standard, to have a total response no more than 14 minutes, 29 seconds on the 90th percentile to all areas of the county. That's what we said, right?
Back up one slide. Shouldn't that slide be the first slide?
Sir?
Shouldn't that slide be the first slide?
First slide.
It should be moved up under the assignment or either above the assignment.
Okay.
Actually, I would move it above the assignment as, this is what the concerns were, this is when the committee was formed.
Okay, good.
I think it'll answer some questions, just like we had questions here about what's in there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm good with that. We can move it all around. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this.
Chief, for the folks, also that third bullet point when it refers to the level of service.
Here,
Yes,
rural
sir.
communities not comfortable with level of service,
Yes, sir. What was their definition of the level of service?
response time.
Okay.
The response times that they were given in the metrics to the rural areas.
Okay.
Can you not just say, can we not just say that instead of level of service?
We can. And this was the performance standard. Again, this is what we decided as a group. The performance goals are shoot times dispatched en route. The benchmark is 90 seconds on the 90th percentile emergency calls. The goal will be 60 seconds, and I think that was what came out of that group yesterday.
I think we amended that performance standard last meeting and agreed that by January 1st, we would add a second zone. Yes.
I just got all my slides all messed up. Like I said, don't give away the end.
You know, Chief, one of the things that, these objectives are great, but one thing we didn't capture is what the technology group went through. That is going to enhance the turnaround from when the customer calls to the time it's dispatched. And so there's this process that we're putting forth significantly improves the time at which we do it, plus the accuracy of the data going out. And I don't think we captured that.
Yeah, that was the driving force behind what Mr. Lutz was just talking about, the amendment that we made to that. And that was the driving force behind that, is because the data that we'll get over the next year, we'll be able to apply, and we'll be able to see where we are better and where we can improve and stretch the system a little bit more, and push them a little bit more on response times and those things.
At the same time with that, not only did we work on the speed at the beginning of the thing, of the dispatch, but at the end of the call by being able to take and automatically download the information for the reports.
Shorten the timeline of service at the hospital.
You know, out of the report room and back to their post, so.
I'm saying you should be commended for
Oh.
the depth you went into.
You're commended. Everybody good with that? Paramedic skills retention, innovation success rate, year 1, 68, year 2, 70, year 3, 72. Advanced airway success rate, year 1, 90, year 2, 90, year 3, 90. Adult vascular access success rate, 78, 80, and 82 over the 3-year period. Any questions about that?
Could I suggest maybe that we note that this is in excess of national standards, that they're actually exceeding national standards?
We can.
In regard to that, because they're making an effort above and beyond.
Sure,
You put meets or exceeds
Yeah.
about that.
we can. The customer / patient satisfaction survey, 95% overall favorable responses. Hospital turnaround times 30 minutes on 90% of hospital transports. And that would be percent instead of percentile there. Okay. So, unit availability, minimum unit availability of 11 transport trucks during the daytime and 9 during the nighttime, 90% of the time by July 1, 2015. The reason why it's July 1, 2015, that's how long it's going to take to go through the hiring process and get up to staff. And that's why we looked at July 1, 2015. The deployment model. The corporation has developed a model that utilizes move up and backfill system. Is that fair, Tim? Correct. Is that fair? The model provides transport trucks in 12 predetermined areas during the day based on travel distance of 14 units. The model provides 11 transport trucks in predetermined areas during the night based on travel distance for 11 total units. Does that make sense?
That's what I'm chewing on, yeah.
What doesn't make sense?
Got 12 and then 14.
Well, there's 14 trucks in 12 locations.
I know that, but.
Why don't we say 12 trucks in 14 locations?
Hey, you have 12 trucks.
14 trucks.
14 trucks in 12 locations. Get it straight back.
Okay, so we need to reword that so that we can put the model provides transport trucks provides 14 transport trucks in 12 predetermined areas.
Yeah.
Okay. Chief.
Actually, I had a question on the previous slide that might be a little bit misleading. That unit availabilities, that's not saying those units are always available. I think that's saying the number of staff units. That might be a little bit confusing or misleading.
Okay.
So I think what you're saying is the number of units will be staffed during the day and night.
Yeah.
To maximum.
They're not.
Yeah. We could do that, just change minimum to maximum.
Yeah.
That would make more sense, what you're saying.
That's by July 1. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what we're saying. Yeah. Because that's what we're doing
Would
by
that,
July 1.
you think that would
Yeah,
work?
I think that would, yeah.
That's the minimum, that's the minimum.
Yeah. that's
Units.
what I know.
11 staff
Staff.
trucks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
by
think
July
you're
1.
saying-
That's by
Staff.
July 1.
Yeah.
Number of staff units.
Okay.
In other words, they're not gonna always maintain.
Yeah, we won't always have that many available.
They're not always available, but
They
that's
don't
the
call
number
it.
of staff each day.
Did you get that, Chief?
Maybe to say staff units.
Okay,
That's what we're talking about.
thank you, Chief. These been some long nights working on this, just so you all know. And so we got the changes that we're gonna make to this slide. 74 corridor concerns. Units on the 74 corridor will be reduced as the system becomes busy. The model calls for the units to be moved to the outer edges of the corridor to increase response area in both directions. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Tim?
Decrease
I would,
response time.
I would put it, move to the outer edges of the corridor to decrease the response times in both directions.
We don't want to increase response time.
Decrease the
Decrease the response
decrease the
time.
response times in both directions. That's,
Same thing, different.
yeah, same thing, different.
I think this is significant in this model.
But this is,
Wait.
so confused.
Go ahead.
We're talking about 74 corridor concerns, but what are we saying below that? Is that a concern that the units in 74 will be reduced as the system becomes busy?
I think previously was
There
that.
was a concern that they were all gonna be on 74.
Yeah, well, that's
So what we're saying is through this deployment model, they're gonna be reduced as the system becomes busy because we're moving them out instead of in.
so it's really not a concern that we're listing below. It's the corridor
Yeah.
concerns.
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
Right.
It's what the community's concerns were.
Yeah, these are the-
But that's not right.
I think the labeling makes it look like those are the concerns when those
So
are
we just need
actually
to take
attachments.
74 corridor, or take concerns off and leave it 74 corridor.
Or just say recommend 74 corridor.
Considerations or some other.
Recommendations.
All right.
Put it down how you want to do it.
So, just write down how you're gonna change it.
Chief, just
Yes.
a comment on this, or maybe a word of caution, I don't know how to word it. You may want to word it that the goal is to make it mutually beneficial to the 74 corridor and the outlying areas. Because what may become a concern is if I live on 74 and you're pulling my trucks off to cover the new trailer, Lanes Creek or somewhere. So I don't know what my recommendation would be to word it, but you may just want to think how you. It's about creating mutual
Right.
benefit for
Yeah,
both the
so
corridor
it's
and
about being able to go
outlying
both ways in the same amount of time. That's what it's really about.
I don't know how to say
Consistent
it.
quality of service throughout the county.
Right.
Correct.
And the same thing, the model calls for the minimum number of units to be 11 during the day and 9 at night to keep units available in the rural areas.
I think particularly the first bullet may be a concern for other people in the 74 area. When you start talking about saying you're gonna reduce their units, it's about creating mutual benefit. You're not really reducing it as you are meeting in a middle ground to cover
Right.
both
You're
areas.
not
Well, that's a
affecting
good
the
phrase
response
right there.
time.
Her phrase
Yeah,
is a
he's
good
writing
opening
it down.
comment.
What's that?
He's
Your
writing
phrase
it
is a
down.
good opening comment, that it's
Yeah.
creating mutual benefit to
Right.
urban and rural areas.
However you wanna say that.
Oh, he's writing it down. Any other questions or concerns with that slide? You two guys that proofread this yesterday did a very good job.
Yeah, but I also told you that.
I wasn't there, so don't blame me.
Is there any other concerns with this slide? If not, we'll go ahead. Level of service on the 90th percentile, the goal of the group, 1429 response time on the 90th percentile, all areas of the county. The model shows that we can reach all areas of the county with 7 units busy on calls for service. Inter-facility transfers will be cut off at 7 units available. And that's just a reason why we're cutting it off at 7 is because that's where we can still meet the coverage.
Chief, do we need to reiterate that first bullet point is emergency calls?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, did I say that on this other one back here? Did I say that? Okay, we can do that on emergency calls.
I know we mentioned it earlier, but
Somewhere in this presentation, we need to explain what inter-facilities transfers are.
Okay. All right, interfacility transfers are where we take people from nursing homes to doctor's appointments, from doctor's appointments back to nursing homes or to private residence. It has to initiate inside Union County.
A facility to facility.
Hospital to hospital as well.
Hospital to hospital, facility to facility.
Right, but we only take the ones that originate in Union County, is that right? In other words, we wouldn't go to Charlotte, and pick somebody up and bring them back if it didn't originate in Union County.
We have done
On
that.
rare occasions, we
It's
have.
on rare occasions, but normally that's somebody that we took from Union County to Charlotte for a doctor's appointment. Then we go back to Charlotte, pick them up and bring them back.
Has to be a Union County resident.
That originates there.
Has to be a Union County resident, and,
I knew there was some clause in there.
Yeah.
most of the time, Medic will take care of it. Occasionally, they're too busy, and
Okay.
they'll ask us to come pick up our residents.
If it's a schedule in a facility, if it goes, let's say to a doctor's office, if it's out of county, those arrangements are made, we take the patient up there, they're seen by the doctor at that time, and then we take them back. It's just,
So we stay with the patient the entire time.
yeah. And back is,
Would it be appropriate, just on your earlier slide where you were given the definitions of shoot times, response times, and everything, just to tack on inter-facility transfer? Would that be an appropriate place to put that on?
Yeah, we can
That-
stick on that.
yeah. Most of the time, when we speak of interfacility, it's hospital to hospital. Okay, that's what we get.
But interfacility transfers include all of those nursing homes to the facility to facility, nursing home to the hospital, hospital to nursing home, basically, here, hospital to hospital. Okay.
So
I think because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a residence-based call where it's initiated, it doesn't go under that, does it?
Right.
Okay.
I assume that's not emergency.
Non-emergency, that's correct. STEMI calls or emergency transfers would continue even below 7.
STEMI, CBA, level drop. Until we
Critical.
cease doing that.
Yeah, emergency transfers will continue. QRVs are not in the model, only transport trucks, and all times are based on transport trucks. Transport trucks will be placed in rural areas and not QRVs, which will increase the coverage from the current model. This will improve the ability of EMS to manage the coverage of the entire county by changing those QRVs to transport trucks.
Right out your title. Quick respond to the
Yeah.
public don't know what
Okay.
you.
Right, yeah, that's what I was fixing to say, you better be ready to define what a QRV is.
Yeah. Calculation of response time. Here you go, Mr. Luch. Response time performance for transport capable units, 90th percentile based on priority dispatch. And priority dispatch is code 3 calls or emergency calls. And that's what the communications center determines through their priority dispatch system. The county will measure compliance on a countywide basis, but will analyze response in all areas to determine if we are achieving response equity. Is that a fair statement?
In the monthly reporting?
Yes.
Mr. Teague, he could ask, and obviously what we would.
And I think that's a fair statement because that's what we want to do, on a monthly basis. Multiple reporting zones to be added in January 16 after we have data based on the changes that are being recommended. Is that right? That's what the amendment was, right, Mr. Luch?
Yeah, the third goal, I feel very comfortable with.
Good. And I thought that's where I added that amendment because it's in this calculation of response times and how we're going to report that.
The only,
And I think in the past, we've maybe misrepresented what these zones are. I think sometimes we get caught up in response zones, and I think it's been referred to as response zones, and it's not response zones, it's simply reporting zones. So I just want to make sure we clarify that these are reporting zones and not response zones.
my only concern is, I actually think you may want to add that language back to the performance standard.
Okay.
Because when the attorneys get together, what they're gonna do is adopt the performance standards
Right.
that were written. The deployment plan we honestly don't know what level of detail that will go in.
Right.
You know, it could, but the performance standards for sure, what I'd like to do, almost do is a cut and paste.
So add that to that, okay? we
So
can
I
do that.
think, so it's in there, we all feel comfortable, let's put it as performance standards so we don't lose that. Because the deployment plan, you know, that could be a paragraph, it could be a page, I don't know what it will look like.
Okay. You're right.
So,
We're gonna move that back over to, under the performance standard at the top where we set the performance standard overall countywide. We're gonna move bullet 3 to that, to under that. Okay, any other questions on that? Averages will not be used to document compliances. The response time clock will start on the dispatch and stop when a capable transport unit arrives on the scene. The response time of 1429 on the 90th percentile of all emergency responses in the county. So I just need to go back and make sure all of those statements say emergency responses.
Third bullet point, very well defined.
Is that better?
Very well defined.
Okay. It was like midnight last night when I was doing this. Staffing and fleet size. The model will require the same number of FTEs as the other plan, 24 FTEs, and that's where we were because you got 8 this year to complete the 12-hour migration, and then 16 to add the 2 units, right?
We'll have to have 20
Okay.
to complete the 14 and 11.
Okay.
Chief, do you want to spell out FTEs on there as well?
Yeah, I will.
Tim, but that 20 doesn't include the 8 you need to get to the 12 hours.
We've already got that.
That's already-
We're already working, that's
This-
already been,
And this number right here included those 8.
okay, well,
And that's,
but it still needs to be 28 then.
then it would, yeah, it would have to be 28. not
28,
24.
okay. And 8 of those are already approved and being hired now.
Correct.
Correct.
Last, the orientation for the last of the 8,
So-
December the 4th.
Financial impact is gonna be 20.
Yeah.
Increases the fleet size by 2 units. The fleet status will be 140%, and I probably need to put reserve units there.
Should be 21 eventually.
And that would be 140%.
Won't be
Right. Yeah, we want to get there eventually, but what we're recommending is only 140.
right now.
Okay, so, yeah. The corporation shall maintain between 55% and 65% of field personnel certified paramedics. Our plan calls for CHS to staff each shift 105%, and that covers it, right? We're figuring that in, right?
As far as, yes, we can look at that.
I mean, I want to make sure what we're telling them is right, that our plan's calling for you to overstaff each shift so that you can cover for call-outs and vacation, to reduce the out-of-service time to 10%. Is that right?
We're close, I have to look at that a little bit more. This, like I said, it's the first time. It should be right now, if we go with, we're looking at 100 employees to do this, the 14 and 11. There will be 100 employees. If we staff to 2 people, if you go to 105%, you like 1 point something per shift. So you need to go to really 108.
Okay. But our goal is to overstaff each shift to reduce the out-of-service time to 10%.
Correct. And the reason why the overstaffing is to take into
That's
consideration.
important. That's very important.
Yeah, take into consideration of
Call-outs,
vacation, sick time.
vacation.
Call-outs, yeah.
So it's 105 or 108?
It's actually 108%.
108%. 108. 108%. I know with the 20 FTEs, that the 24 needs to go to 28 FTEs to be whole at 14 and 11 trucks.
Okay. And 20 of those are included in the financial impact of this model, right?
And when we're talking about this is what, I'm sort of getting confused now, is because eventually, like I said, over the next 15 months, when we grow this system, this new model, we're gonna have to have those 28 FTEs. Also, we'll have to have, when we go to 14 and 11, 14 trucks online, of course, 150% of 14 would be, 50% of 14 is 7.
21.
So, yeah,
How many trucks do
21.
you have now?
18.
And we're adding 2, so we're gonna need to add 1 more over the next.
You need to add, yeah, to bring it up, yeah.
And with that, with adding 2, we're gonna be at 140%.
Correct, yeah.
How many employees do they have now?
116.
116, 116,
And
119.
that's a moving target because they're hiring every week.
But how many are you allotted at the most?
Will be 100, I think it's 120, 100, something like
Is
that.
that right, Mr. Lewis? 120?
So about the 2015 budget?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I'm trying to add, so you have to go administrative,
Right.
supervisor, but what we're looking at here are
Paramedics,
response
personnel.
technician, personnel. That's what confuses a lot of people. Well, you're looking for this, you got this, well, you got administrative staff, you got supervision, office staff.
Earlier slide, you had 116 on there. We've got
Yeah.
4 going through currently and 6 more going through in December.
Should
About
not.
120, 100.
Corporation shall maintain a minimum of 55.
Call me today and I'll get you that number.
Should maintain a minimum.
That should be minimum of between 55 and 65, or really just a minimum of 55.
Yeah, but I guess there's really no reason to have a maximum. You can have 100% max, if you can get them. Because we just need to state the minimum, which would be 55. Did you get that, Chief? Yep. You was already on that, wasn't you? Okay. Any other questions on that? And the ultimate goal out of this overstaff is to reduce this out of service time to 10%. That's the ultimate goal out of it. Okay? Here's the deployment strategies. We got to do a little talking about this. This is basically the presentation that Tim gave last week. And what I did was I just incorporated it into this. This is the deployment areas. The round circles, red round circles are fire stations. The blue squares with the P in them are identified posting locations or identified move-up locations. So you can see we got 18 fire departments and quite a few posting locations that we're able to move in between to backfill, move up. This is the total number of calls between January 1, 2014 and October 31st, 2014. These are all code 3
Yes.
emergency calls.
Yes.
Each one of these different colors, Tim, represents the travel distance for different trucks.
Yes.
So in this model right here, we have 2 trucks assigned to Stallings, to the Stallings base, and 2 trucks assigned to the mid base.
Right.
All right. Is there a truck at Allen's Crossroads?
Correct.
Okay. So in this model, it calls for a truck at Henry Bridge, truck at Unionville, New Salem, Marshall, Allen's Crossroads, Lanes Creek,
Sandy Ridge.
Sandy Ridge, which is here, Rough Edge 16, somewhere in those, right?
25 Jackson.
At 25 Jackson,
Correct.
Waxhaw,
Correct.
and Wesley Chapel.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I had that right in my mind. When I looked at it, that's what I saw, but I just want to make sure.
If you can if you can make just, and I've got a sheet that will provide, I can give it to you, and you can just read it off where
Yeah,
they're at.
That'd be perfect.
Okay.
That'd be perfect.
I got it if they're asking questions about move ups, whatever, at each level, I can give you that.
That'd be
and you can go,
perfect.
Here they are.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Just let me clarify that this color right here means that it's outside the 13-minute drive time from those bases. In most of these cases, it's based on the road network. It's the reason why we can't reach them. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the way the roads are there.
What is it? So what is that showing in, it's hard for me to tell, I mean, what's that showing in Monroe?
It's showing full coverage, the white in those areas. Everything shows a 13-minute drive time. Every one of them. This is where we try to base it on 12 minutes, 59 seconds, but the software won't allow you to do that. You have to do it from a 13 to the second difference. But each color defines in that area, if that truck's placed in that area, that's where they can drive to for the recommended speed limits of the road network within this county. And in 13 minutes, this is where they can provide coverage at. Mind you, at 14 trucks deployed, the hospital area in the city would have 2 trucks. But as the demand of the call volume or the demand grows, those trucks would move, instead of being totally into the city, they would start moving out of the city.
Yeah, we'll show that as we go
Yeah.
through. I
But
got
you
your
can get-
presentation.
Yeah.
Shows that as we go through.
And Chief, I think with the two-it base and what this really can't predict is like part of that Unionville area that's down there at the southern tip might actually be in the
Part of
city's
this.
response zone, so you might be getting there quicker where
Yeah.
it says Benton Heights versus, you know, it's just, you know, these are just depicting the map.
Yeah, just depicting travel times. You're talking about this area right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, most likely will come out of there. Okay, any other questions about that? I think I got that in my mind. These are the calls that are in those areas where the trucks are located. So you can see from that standpoint, 98% of the calls are covered from those 12 locations. This is with 11 trucks deployed, so this will be a nighttime coverage. Kind of the same scenario. We're still showing Alps Crossroads, Lanes Creek, Sandy Ridge, Jackson, Middle Springs, Waxhaw, Wesley Chapel, and Stiles, Henry Bridge, Unionville, New South, and Hospital. And that kind of shows, what you were talking about, Gary, out here with the response times or travel times. Okay? And there are the calls that are in that scenario. Same thing, we're still well above 90% covered on all of those. Now this is where I have a question. How far down do we need to go? Tim went all the way to 3, and that's what's in here, but how far do we need to go down in the deployment model? Do we need to go to 7, to 50% where we're gonna cut off IFTs? I'm looking for recommendations from y'all where to cut this off at.
We'll go beyond that.
I don't think we need to do it.
So we do 14, 11, and then 7. And I mean, for sake of time, I don't see no point.
It's gonna be so
Yeah.
dependent
Yeah.
on where everything is,
It's
you
all kind of
can't
moving.
really go to that level.
And
Right, so-
somewhere in all this, you gotta say that with the ABL, they're gonna dispatch the truck that's the closest.
Yeah.
Beating on that, I think.
Yeah. So I think if I go 14, 11, which is what we're recommending as the staffing, so we'll do 14 and 11 and then 7, which would be where the cutoff would be for interfacility transfers, and that's it right there. That's the coverage map at 7 available, which means during the day, we would have 7 on a call.
Correct. Yeah,
7 would be,
maximum staffing.
and Tim, help me out here because I can't remember off the top of my head, Greg. 80%, 70-something% of your transports go to Monroe?
I'm saying somewhere around, it's close to 85%.
Oh, really? So close to 85% of the transports are going to Monroe. So if we have 7 calls on a unit, or 7 units on calls, then 5 of them are at Union Region. No, CMC Union. I apologize. Max, Union Memorial,
In the spring, it'll be Carolina's Healthcare System Union.
Yeah.
So-
All right. So we'll be one behind again.
The hospital and
Yeah, the hospital. So basically, 5 of the 7 that are on call, based on percentages, statistically speaking, would be at the hospital in Monroe. And, yeah. Where you want, which one?
Right there.
Okay.
Hey, is this just an EMS management question? Up there in the purple area, there's a
This
lot
one?
of, right there, there's a lot of coverage there that's outside of Union County. Is there any benefit in that posting being brought down more in county to get all of that response area more in the county?
Yeah, I think it does. It moves down to right in here.
I don't think they respond to calls there, do they, Tim?
No.
It's just showing your drive time.
Right, just saying, if you pulled it in, you could cover.
But what I'm saying, you've got area there that's going outside the county that we're not.
Correct, and what we try to do all along with this, as John is speaking of, is that not only are we looking at the response times, we also, this is one of the concerns I thought through the committee is crew benefits, crew comforts, having them instead of absolutely out on a street corner, that have the opportunity to have an area where they can eat, bathrooms, facilities such as this. That's one of the reasons there, but as you'll see if you go down into the deployment models, as they become busier, that purple,
Yeah, it moves down.
it
to
will
this
migrate
post here,
down.
so to say.
It moves down. But what I'm trying to do is what I'm trying to actually do is make sure that we're meeting the whole county at this response time, and also taking into consideration crew comfort. All of this is involved in this system here. But as you say, as the system, as it becomes, the demand grows on the system, then they do have to move out.
And the way he explained it last week was, if Unionville goes out, this truck right here moves over here,
Yeah, in that
which is
system.
the old quick check at Unionville Indian Trail and Rocky River. So it's constantly, going to be moving up, backfilling, just the way we used to do all of that.
And I understand what you're saying, I'm just saying, in the goal range is that 12 and a half minutes or whatever, but if we can get there in 6, that's obviously better, so.
Correct.
That was my thought on if that could be moved down some, you'd be more in the response area.
Like that.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's opposed to the location.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's 7 trucks. And there's the calls at 7, and we're still covering above 90% of the code 3 or emergency calls in Union County at 7 trucks. And I think that's where we need to cut it off at.
Yeah.
Instead of going to 5 and 3, and, I think that demonstrates what we want to demonstrate. Okay? You got a lot of work to do, Chief. Is there any other questions or comments for the group on this presentation other than what we got noted? I know we got some stuff to fix, but
Do we need a summary recommendation from the committee as our final statement?
we can do that.
I think you probably need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and it also needs to identify the support that the overall committee gave to the
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, we can do that, a conclusion. The other thing that I wanted to point out to the group as, over the last week, I received an email that was from the chair of the county commission, and he has requested from the county manager a matrix showing a side-by-side comparison of what we're recommending versus what the September, I think is right to say, is this right? The September agreement showed for deployment, performance standards. Okay, so that'll be something else that comes up on Monday night. I will probably try to put something together too that shows those questions.
I think the key thing is, this is an enhancement. Either model is an enhancement of historical performance. I think we all feel comfortable with the commitment and the teamwork that's been developed. That year 3, we don't know what the performance standards will be because it will be set every year in the funding. But I will just tell you, I feel comfortable that at the end of the 3rd year, we're going to be very close, if not better, than what the performance standards were in the September proposal. And there, one thing that this presentation doesn't focus on is the teamwork that was developed, the relationships, and the commitment that we are all absolutely going to work together to make sure this execution is successful. And that probably can't be emphasized on a PowerPoint presentation, but we're all in this together. CCOM, volunteer fire departments, EMS, the county, we're all committed to this. And we all have skin in the game because we're part of this, developing this plan. And that just, that can't be shown on a PowerPoint presentation, but it's so important. You can have a plan, but if everyone's not committed to it, it's just what's on paper. And I think the difference is this plan, we're all actually committed to it.
We're going to try to say that in the conclusion.
I think that's very important that you do that. I think that it's very important that everybody realizes this is a consumer-driven product, that all the people in this room live in all parts of this county and have come together to put a plan forward that meets what the people of the county want. And, I think it can be improved on as the years go.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is the basis.
We've got to have a starting point.
To start with.
And I'd like to reiterate what the sheriff said earlier on. I'm going to tell you, I go very few places in Union County that somebody don't ask me about what's going on with EMS.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it's definitely in the forefront of their mind. And I've had people even ask me about the response times, and what we're recommending. And just like Chief Fowler said, there's going to be a large percent of those calls that are going to be answered in far less time than what our 90th percentile is. So, they have questions about that and all of those things. So,
well, in these presentations and in this plan, we can talk about stations and manpower and trucks and FTEs, but the public understands what response time is.
sure.
They know when you talk about response times, exactly, that's the time it takes you to get to meet you, if I need you. All that other stuff.
Don't matter.
Don't matter.
That's right.
Response time is what they're interested in. And I think this plan satisfies that.
Anything else for the good of the group? If not, I got to get to work.
So we said we need a motion to do something earlier, Mr. Adams.
Sorry.
I want to make sure that we caught what you were talking about. Do we need to have a final motion to propose?
I think that's appropriate because, just like Mike stated, what we've done is responded to the community raised concerns. We brought the subject matter experts in the county together and developed a model that meets their expectations. And I think we need to demonstrate that we're in favor of this model.
We would entertain a motion if that's what the group thinks we need to do.
Sure, I'll make a motion, but
We could struggle in that.
I've already, we've already made that motion to go with this model, correct?
Right.
So this is
last year.
Yeah, so, I
Mr.
don't,
Chairman?
we don't need to re-motion it, I would think.
I would make a motion that this group accept the presentation as amended for presentation to the commissioners for Monday night.
I second that.
With the changes.
Yeah, you said it. All right, we got a couple of seconds. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay. Now, we'll need one more motion.
I move we adjourn.
You got your stamp pat.